Okay, so what I'll try to do is talk a little bit about my personal journey and then a little bit about why kind of talking about religion and the place of faith in society is actually a very important thing to do. I grew up mostly in Egypt. I spent some time in the Gulf, a little bit time in the UK, and I had an upbringing that I would think of as being very privileged. I went to an international school. We did a lot of traveling, and but it was also very Islamic in the sense that we there was a lot of emphasis on praying, on learning the Quran. I spent a year in faith school. Used to go to some Islamic summer schools sometimes, but okay, yeah, sorry. And yeah, and we did all these like different Islamic activities, but it never felt like religion was shoved down my throat in any ways. It was always like a very positive, lighthearted aspect of my life that I almost like fully embraced. And the first key time I think with like religion, journey with religion was around the time when I was 12, and I felt like I wanted to be able to say that okay, I actually chose to be a Muslim. I didn't just wasn't just born into the religion. I wanted to kind of start reading more and learning more, and that's what I did. I developed a very like a particular interest in Islam. I think that was the first time I read the Quran end to end, and became significantly more devout. Started waking up, like for example, to pray the morning prayer, which is not something that my family really did, but I was taking all these like kind of extra steps to be to practice Islam properly. And also, as you do when you're a teenager in the noughties and you're interested in something, you go on the internet. And I was spending a lot of time on internet forums, kind of just discussing Islam with people, trying to what I consider now like upholding the honor brigade of Islam, like defending Islam against accusations of terrorism, of violence or misogyny or all these different misconceptions, trying to clear them out. And one of the places where I used to go a lot was Yahoo Answers. I was a top contributor in religion and spirituality, which it's all private now. I think I used to do very weird things, like create another account to ask questions about Islam as if I'm a non-Muslim, and then answer my own question. and um, and uh, and then a third account, and then a third account to vote for my best answer. So people say I have an obsessive personality in that way. Like I was really into it, but it also wasn't just like a short obsessive phase. After that, I spent quite a lot of time talking to, like having almost pen pals on the internet who were from different faiths, and I put on the headscarf around the same time as well. I think when I was 13, which is something that a lot of family members were actually against, because I was probably they thought I was too young to be taking that decision, and I didn't really understand what I was doing. But even now, looking back, I think I was doing these things for the same reasons a lot of adults do them, is that it was the right thing to do in the eyes of God, and that's kind of the logically consistent way to live my life. So the other key time in my life probably was around 5 years later when I moved from Egypt to the UK for university, and Islam at that time became a very strong identity. So the first friends I made in the at university were people I met in the prayer room or people I met in the street because they looked like me. I could identify with them, and it was actually a very beautiful community. It's in New York, and it's just a very close, small community. People are very caring, and I quickly got involved with different things, with different activities, and because I was very enthusiastic about the idea of also discussing Islam and doing things on with university societies, I got very involved with the Islamic Society. So I informally joined the first year and then became on the committee and was chair of the ISOC for a little bit of time during my second year. And anyone who's involved in societies know that, like you guys must know, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy to do all this stuff, and you must really it must mean something to you. And some of the things that we did included like giving out flowers on the streets with quotes about Prophet Muhammad, and standing on dawah stalls, attending different conferences about Islam or about answering difficult questions about Islam. And thinking back now, I think there were probably definitely times during that phase when there was something building up. So I remember being on a dawah stall and we're giving out copies of the Quran, and someone just stopped, said absolutely nothing, and just highlighted the verse about beating, and he walked off. And a lot of people got like a bit angry, but to me it just like made me feel very uncomfortable. Different times of being unsatisfied with certain answers, maybe feeling uncomfortable with certain parts of the Quran, but at that time I didn't recognize that anything was changing. I still very strongly believed, but then slowly I did realize things were changing, and that's where people are like, okay, so you mixed with the wrong people and you were getting swayed by society, or your faith is weak, and this and that. And one of the things I don't want to do is say, okay, no, it has nothing to do with society or the environment you're in, because obviously you get put in certain situations that make you question and reassess what you believe in, and this definitely happened. And I think a big part of it was that my views in general about everything in life were becoming increasingly progressive, and I was struggling a lot to reconcile that with Islam. So I would have conversations with people about women's issues or Sharia, and I started feeling like I was saying half-truths, or I'm almost lying by omission, and trying to ignore things that I knew existed in scripture and not mention them. And this made me feel very dishonest and made me kind of recognize a certain pattern of like disingenuity in all these apologetic arguments. And then I started disagreeing with certain things. I would be like, no, I actually don't agree with Sharia, or I actually think capital punishment is wrong. And slowly the morality was just breaking down for me. And then the whole world view was also becoming very problematic. The idea of life being a test, the idea of what God expects from us, all this was just not making a lot of sense to me anymore. And I think one of the things we tend to talk about is how there is never really one breaking point. I can't be like, that was the breaking point, or like I can't say the chronological order by which things happened. But I was generally starting to become very flexible with like what's halal and what's haram, and I was very skeptical about a lot of things which I thought I knew for sure about Islam. So one of the things that I started realizing, and that I found very problematic, is that a lot of the things I knew about Islamic history were actually very polished up and romanticized, and it's not actually a true reflection of reality. And then I went back to some of the scientific miracles, and this was never a big thing for me, but seeing how some people were going out of their way and exaggerating certain things to make these arguments for Islam was one of the things just that made me question absolutely everything that I was taught. And the thing that kept drawing me back is that I felt, no, but the world is unjust, and there has to be a hereafter to balance it all out, and to make where like there's just like some cosmic force that will distribute justice and it's all going to be okay. But I didn't think it was true anymore, and I was struggling a lot with the Quran, and I think important. This wasn't a long time ago. So the phase with the Quran was last Ramadan, which is basically last June, and that's when you kind of have the Quran playing all the time, and I would hear certain verses, and I understand Arabic, so I just almost cringe at certain things I would hear, and I had a short time of being kind of a Muslim, and I think some people have like a lifetime of being kind of a Muslim, but I was basically in this state of cognitive dissonance where I would be, it was a very long fasting day last year. It was almost until like 9 p.m. So you're fasting for almost 18 hours. And I was fasting. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't eating in the toilet. I was really like, it's 8 p.m. and I'm hungry, but I'm also downloading the atheism tapes and watching them. And a lot of the stuff I started watching different documentaries, and a lot of the stuff was really resonating with me and making sense. So because religion was such a big part of my life before, I couldn't do the thing that I think a lot of atheists from a Muslim background do, where you just brushed under the carpet. And I knew that what I was doing was very logically inconsistent. So at one point I just had to stop and ask myself, okay, so do I actually believe that the Quran is the word of God? Do I actually believe that Muhammad is a perfect role model? Do I believe in all these things? And when the answer to all these questions was no, that's when I just stopped and I was like, shit. Because I quickly realized that this was going to have very big, just very big implications to my life as someone who is a devout Muslim female. And they were and they still are. And I'm not going to go too much into like the whole, to kind of the different things with telling people, and people don't take it well, and your family and your friends and different people react in different ways, but I've been very open about it. And until today it remains a very central part of my life, and I probably spend more time talking about Islam now than I did when I was a Muslim, and I spent a lot of time talking about Islam when I was a Muslim, so that's very, very telling. And I think part of the reason why I also think I can't help talking about all these things quite frequently is that I see how the experience of dissidence is very trivialized or just completely dismissed. So I think there's a certain pattern where when you declare this belief, the first thing tends to be that, okay, you were never really a true Muslim, or you never really believed in this and that. And I find this quite patronizing, and I know that it wasn't the case. And then the other thing is that, okay, you were weak, or you just, your faith was too weak, or that, so it's like basically the first thing is that you were ignorant about the religion. And when this doesn't really fit you, it becomes a more aggressive tone, that you become demonized further and branded like you're basically arrogant. You know the truth, but you're covering it up, and that you're basically this more evil section of disbelievers who are like Satan or Shaitan in Islam, who knows that hell exists, but he's just choosing to disobey. And which is very funny to me, because I don't think anyone who actually no one's going to choose to get roasted in hell for eternity. But some people just like genuinely think that in order for someone to choose not to be a Muslim is a form of arrogance, or thinking you're too good for a religion, or thinking you're just you're taking the easy way out, and all these different things. And then there are people who try to just cast their experience on you. They're like, hey, I've been there, it's just a phase, and I used to do this as well, and I just mostly I think people who were like very liberal Muslims in their when they were young and used to go out drinking, whatever, like, yeah, you'll get out of it. And all of this stuff is just, to me, is one of the biggest reasons why I just didn't feel like I could just become like another bad Muslim, or someone who could be dismissed for not knowing what they're doing, because I think there are very, very real reasons why people become skeptical of religion, or why people ask certain questions. And to me, it also fits in with a larger conversation, especially. So a big part of talking about this has to do with, okay, you shouldn't be discriminating against atheist and Muslim communities, or you shouldn't be, you should have a certain support network, but also you should be talking to dissidents and skeptics and people who've gone through a certain thought process about different issues, whether it's women's rights or the kind of the political situation now. And to me, this was a big thing, because I could see the frustration in a lot of Muslim communities. And I remember being on I was 16, but we were on the street during like the Egyptian revolution, and people want something to change, and people are constantly discussing, okay, how do we improve teaching science? How do we, like, the possibility of teaching evolution, for example, in any part of the Arab world is not even an option. So there are all these different important conversations that we should be having, where I think religion plays a role and is constantly being ignored, and maybe that's one of the reasons why apostates tend to be silenced as well. And I'd really like for this to change, and I'd really like to for more people to be willing to have these conversations, and even if they're considered to be sensitive issues, or if there is a risk that you'll offend certain people, it's a very important thing to do. And so thank you for giving us this platform. And that's it.